Welcome in and welcome back. We are here for a trailer review for the new James Bond trailer which dropped, which was for the movie No Time to Die. Sort of a standard cut and paste James Bond trailer. You've got a lot of action, you've got a lot of explosions, you got a lot of guns, you got some new contraptions, you got some new vehicles, but actually, I don't know that we saw any new weapons, any weird weapons. We saw some big weapons. We saw some high caliber weapons. I don't know that we saw anything new or imaginary, just a couple new vehicles. Vehicles which looked like they might, in fact, cause testicular torsion. But what do we have here? Basically, a cut and paste James Bond trailer, which is not necessarily to say anything bad about the go round. It is what you come to expect from James Bond, all of the spectacle, all of the action, all of the women, etc., etc. Which, look, I am not the greatest James Bond fan. I'm not a big James Bond fan. In fact, there are James Bond enthusiasts who will laugh at me because Daniel Craig is my James Bond. That's my James Bond. Casino Royale was the first James Bond movie that I really liked. So it is interesting to see Daniel Craig back as the most sour-faced James Bond ever, and it is interesting to think, if you really sit back and think about it, he's played James Bond for 14 years now. I think Casino Royale was 2006, if I'm not mistaken. So he's played James Bond for 14 years, and when you start looking at the most iconic, intertwined actors and characters of our time, one of the forefront that comes to mind is certainly, and it should be, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. Hugh Jackman only played Wolverine for, I believe, 18 years, Logan coming out in 2017, and the original X-Men was a movie from 1999? Or was it 2000? If it was 2000, then he only played Wolverine for 17 years, compared to James Bond being played by Daniel Craig for 14 years. He's up there in that rarefied air. Certainly to an entire generation, he is as iconic in the role of James Bond as is Hugh Jackman to Wolverine. So it is strange. When you think about it, the difference between 14 and 18 years, sure, it is possible in today's day and age, well, maybe not in the COVID time, but in the world before, it was possible to turn around a movie in 2 years, but not very often. So, I mean, how often do sequels pop out 2 years after the original? Deadpool is the last big one that comes to mind. But 3-4 years is pretty average for a movie. So one more movie would put Daniel Craig in that same business filing as Hugh Jackman and Wolverine. Just sort of running down the actors that appeared in the trailer. Rami Malek. I never put the emphasis on the right syllables with his name. Certainly seems to bring a gravitas to the screen. Certainly seems to bring a type of credibility to the role of James Bond villain, which in these movies we've come to expect, right? In the Daniel Craig James Bond movies, the villain is every bit as heavy a hitter as is James Bond. In fact, if you're talking about acting chops, one would probably pretty easily be able to make the case for every villain in the Daniel Craig's James Bond movies, with the exception of Batista, being as good or more acclaimed an actor as Daniel Craig. And Rami certainly seems to be bringing that to the screen, though I can't get over seeing him as Freddie Mercury. And imagining an evil Freddie Mercury is something I just don't care to do. Ana de Armas looks interesting for scientific reasons. And finally, Lashana Lynch is looks interesting in the role, seems out of place. It seems like they're setting up a good cop, bad cop routine, which, hey, fine, great, good and dandy. But when you're casting um, old sourpuss himself, Daniel Craig's James Bond, as the good guy, it leaves an interesting dynamic up in the air. She certainly steals the screen time that she's on in this trailer, but I am not sure she commands the screen, commands your attention. I am not sure how that dynamic is going to work between the two. But that's it for the trailer review for No Time to Die. Seems pretty standard James Bond go around, and no, that is not necessarily a bad thing.